I've never written a resume. I've always found it whether easier or just seamless to start a company.
So in a way, you kind of stumbled into nearshore outsourcing by actually doing it yourself for your company, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe it was Larry Ellison that said, one has to eat their own dog food or home cooking, and that's kind of what happened to us. We stumbled into it, if you will, but we found it to be incredibly efficient and effective, and if managed the right way, then it could be a game changer.
Please tell me what your name is and what's your title in your company.
Sure, I'm Derechin. I am the co-founder and CEO of Nir-Yu. Nir-Yu is a nearshore staffing company, and what that means is that we work with U.S. companies in order to hire Latin American professionals, anywhere from the Rio Grande down to Patagonia, that fit whatever job description they need, and then we're able to hire the people in their country of origin using one of our companies, regional companies. We hire them or we assign them to the U.S. company, and it's important to state that, although a lot of companies do this to lower costs, in our case, we see it as more of a strategic advantage, because certainly although costs are less, we're also looking for individuals that are extremely hardworking, that want to get ahead of life, that want to sort of participate in the American dream, dare I say, but do it from their country of origin. So if they can work for an American company and work their tail off for an American company, in essence providing a lot of benefit, and the American company is able to save 60, even 70% of what the equivalent American professional would cost, it's a win-win, and it's a way to create a long-lasting and profitable relationship for both parties. So to the beginning, I was born in Mexico, but I was actually raised in the U.S. When I was 7 years old, my parents moved to the U.S. and along with them, obviously, we went. Although I'm Mexican by birth and American by naturalization, you sort of learn how to coalesce between both cultures. My entrepreneurial journey started when I was very young. I got caught in school selling sweets, Mexican sweets. Oddly enough, it was also nearshoring, because I used to cross the border from San Diego to Tijuana with my parents, buy Mexican candy, and then, this is in the mid-70s, by the way, and then when we would go home, I'd take the sweets to school and then sell them there, until I got called to the principal's office because all the kids would be spending their lunch money on sweets instead of their lunch. And then from there, I've just been entrepreneurial forever. First company I founded when I was 18. I read and on the news heard about AIDS, right, and the AIDS scare. So I contacted a condom company in the US, visited them, and then bought a whole bunch of them and brought them to Mexico in order to sell condoms. So yes, I am one of those people who started their entrepreneurial journey literally selling rubbers. My brother Jacob and I, in the very early 2000s, started a company called JackBe, like JackBe Nimble, JackBe Quick, which became the first Mexican company and one of the first Latin American companies ever to raise investment from U.S. venture capital firm. And then I moved to Washington, D.C. in order to head the company as CEO, and I was a part of the management, leading the company and whatnot for 14, 15 years until the company's eventual acquisition. We were doing some really interesting stuff, and what was cool about it is in the early 2000s, and most people won't remember this. Well, people my age, 50-some and up, will remember, but it was the age of dial-up internet. So you actually had to use a modem and then dial into an internet service provider. And JackBe, what we did is we took advantage of some technologies called AJAX, asynchronous XML, in order to create web pages or front ends that were a lot more reactive, that were a lot friendlier, that looked good, that were faster. So it was all about the user experience. That's the thesis under which we raised money. And then JackBe sort of pivoted a couple times. When it was acquired, it was about real-time business intelligence. But I think within that story, there's sort of a secondary story that I think is equally interesting. And, you know, as we were building the company, certainly, you know, as I said, once we got the funding, we moved from, at least I moved from Mexico City to the US in order to begin to sell in the US market. And when I started hiring people in the US, I sort of realized that our venture round wasn't going to go very far if I had to hire all these people with American wages. So what we decided to do is we decided to keep a fair portion of our engineering in Mexico. So imagine this, right? Early 2000s, selling software in the US, and yet the software was both being created, developed, and serviced from Mexico. Over the years, certainly our US footprint grew. We hired VP engineering, CTOs, high-level staff, so some very talented developers, American, Russians, Brits, Indians, you name it. But we still kept a frothy footprint in Mexico in order to work along with whether it was our Washington, DC, or our Fremont in Silicon Valley, our Silicon Valley office, as well as Indian developers. So the fact that we had Latin American developers that were working hand in hand with American developers when nobody else was doing it, or very few people were doing it. I don't want to claim that we invented this, but certainly when very few people were doing this was a unique differentiator that allowed us to lower costs while maintaining same time zone servicing for our clients as well as for the US contingent of developers that we had. Upon JackBe's acquisition, I found myself, without much to do, and then I would go to different IT industry events in the Washington, DC area or in other places. And then I'd get sort of pulled off to the side once people realized what we had done, and they'd say, if you were able to find Mexican or Latin American engineers to work for your company, do you think you could help us do the same thing in order to lower our cost? And the answer is yes. The first one, I was incredibly proud of Latin American tech talent and wanted more people to find out about it. So the first few of these I did sort of pro bono, if you will, free, and I would work for friends in order to help them find Latin American talent. And I did 3-4 of these. And then I sort of realized that if there was value that was being created by having Latin American engineers work for American companies, that maybe we could, create a company in order to do that. And over time, it sort of turned into what is now Nir-Yu. And I think philosophically we're different in that, there are a lot of companies that have been doing what I'll call transactional nearshoring, right? Whether it's BPOs or call centers that try to take the low cost part of the market and just do it with less expensive talent, and in doing so, you sort of cheapen it to the point where you can do it repetitively. Today, we work with many companies that are looking not only to lower costs, but in order to make the people working in Latin America an integral part of their company, right? This isn't about a transactional activity. Certainly, there are a whole lot of people that do this transactionally, right? They're going to hire an SDR or a CSR and then just do it because it's going to cost them less instead of hiring the equivalent in the US, and that's fine, and God bless them. But what we have found that works even better is, by following a framework And in that framework, making sure that the people that are working for you become part of your company, right? It's about integrating them. It's about motivating them. It's about making sure that by actually feeling like they're part of it, being told that they're part of them, being made to feel like they're part of them, then you not only get a lowering of cost, but you actually get a gain in effectiveness and efficiency.